Now, what we're gonna do today is gonna show you how to safely use the planer. Now, this is a planer, some of you might know it as a surfacer, but it's still the same thing. So the first step we're gonna do is we're just gonna read through the safety things. We never, ever stick our face down here and look into the planer. Never stand there. When I'm using the planer, the board's going in right here. Do I stand directly behind it? No, I stand to the side of the board that's going in. There's plenty of room around for you to move and so you don't stand right and directly in line with the wood. You gotta check the board for defects. If we take a look at this board right here, it has a defect on it, doesn't it? Now, you gotta closely examine the defect. If those defects have knots in it or are cracked real bad that are gonna break out in this process, you cannot use that board till you remove the defects. If I look at this defect, it is a solid defect in the board, so I can proceed on with what I'm doing. The planer can only be used on boards that are 12 inches in length, and here is the reason. Now, look at my artistry. Look how pretty it is. See this? Here's what's going on inside the machine. Here's what's going on. This is supposed to be like a gear. This is called the Infeed Roll, which is found right here. This will automatically grab the board, pull the board into the machine. There's hold down bars right here before and after the cutting head. The cutting head has 3 knives on it. So it holds the board down, the cutting head is spinning quite fast. And so when the board goes in, it's taking off the wood, then it has a hold down on the outside. Then on the back side of the machine is an outfeed roll that's smooth. So when I initiate the board, it will go in, grabs the board, pulls it through, and sends it out. That's what's happening inside this. When we go to a board, so if a board is not 12 inches in length, that process can't happen inside using all these. The board gets literally stuck in the machine. If the board would get stuck in the machine, you automatically grab this lever right here, push the button, push forward. What that stops is the infeed rolls from spinning. Then you would instantly reach over and turn the machine off. So the board, first off, needs to be 12 inches in length. This we can cut off. The max we can cut off on this machine is 1/16. Now we go to use this, 1 full turn is 1/16. I can do a half a turn. All right, but you can never do more than 1 full turn at a time. So this machine will cut 1/16 of a turn, but if we have really hardwoods, maybe you want to do a half a turn. Allow the wood to pass completely through the machine before you make any adjustments. Run the wood with the grain. You can see the lines with the grain. Never again. Sometimes we end up boards that are pretty wide and you may get confused, but you still need to understand them. Remember the parts of a board? This is where all that knowledge comes into play. Here is chips that came out of the machine where somebody put the board in against the grain. Here's the chips that we should traditionally see. Real fine chips. This is a board going with the grain, not against it. This is a telltale sign that somebody put the board in the wrong way. And you will hear that. The machine will tell you that it doesn't like that. Always use a push stick on the planer. Sometimes we end up with boards with little high spots and stuff. And what we do is we take and we can give the board a little nudge with this stick there on both planers to help push the board through. Ask for help when running multi-boards. If I have 12 boards I'm running through, it's an awful lot of, it's a challenging job to put a board in, to run around the machine, put another one in, to keep running around and everything else. So make sure that if you're gonna run multi-boards through, you get some help. Always measure the thickest part of the board, all right? Always measure the thickest part of the board. To set the planer up for the actual thickness of the board, and I will demonstrate that here in a few minutes. This wheel right here is for adjusting this table up and down. The cutter head is up here, so when I need to adjust that, I bring the board up to the knife, not the knife down to the board. So we need to know the actual thickness. Now, here is our thickness scale, and when I start the machine up and we demonstrate how to actually use it, I'll show you how we bring this all together. Now, we're going to go through a demonstration of how to run this board. First thing you need to have on is safety glasses. So what I'm going to do is make sure I have my stick in case the board gets stuck. This is a board that I want to plane through, and I'll show you how these marker marks will go away that I have on here. So the first step I want to do is measure the board for the actual thickness. Now, if I read my ruler, it says 15/16. Now I got to come down to this scale, and I have to set this for 15/16. All right, when in doubt, just set it a little deeper. All right, it's better to have it pass through without any cutting than it is, and you can raise it up, than it is to misjudge and try to take too much wood off at one time. You need to lock this knob. I like to start with a handle down. That way I always know where I'm at in the process. Now, when I go to start the machine up, make sure this is engaged, because remember that engages the infeed and outfeed roll. The start switch is right here. So then I would hit start. All this other stuff right here is just for the teachers to use to set the machine up so it runs good. We have another planer over here that runs almost exactly the same way. The switches are a little bit different, but it runs the same way, same process, same everything. But we're going to use this for the demonstration. Now I need to turn on the dust collector for this, and I need to turn the machine on. The planing process is rather loud, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to talk or anything. I want you to observe how the board goes in. Once it goes through once, then I'll turn the machines off, then we'll have a short little discussion after that. So, first thing to do is recap. I come up, I measure the thickest part of my board. I come over here, I roll this back and forth wherever I need to go. You look at this gauge. This gauge is the board going in, not coming out. So now I have it set at 15/16. I got to turn the dust collector on. Turn the machine on. Make sure I'm going with the grain. Now if everybody looks here, the board didn't do much, did it? So I got to come around, grab the board, make another adjustment, put it back through. Now if you look, that diagram I had on here is gone, isn't it? Now if you notice, the first pass I put it through, it didn't do a lot, but that's perfectly fine because what it did was it took a few high spots off, then I adjusted, and now I took a layer of wood off. Now, I'm not gonna do it, but I would continue with that process, keep going, keep going, keep going, until I get it down to the actual thickness of my finished board. So if you have any questions on using the planer, please ask the teacher.